Hi, and welcome to the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast. I am your host, Patricia Hopkins. I am a modern mystic, and I am here to share with you the beautiful wisdom and stories from women that desire to lead their lives inspired by the divine within them. The divinely inspired woman is devoted to walking the path of her soul's calling, tuning into the divinity within to navigate life with ease and grace through all circumstances. She cultivates beauty in her daily life. She is here to share the most authentic self each day through thick and thin. So I hope you'll enjoy our show today and that you will leave with an infusion of inspiration for your soul and for your day and living your life. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast. And I am your host, Patricia Hopkins, and I have a beautiful guest with me here today, and she is going to be sharing with us some of her magic. So let's go ahead and welcome Anna Frolik to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you again today.
Yes, again. And you were on season 1, and that was so much fun. So I had to get you to come back. And season 2 is we're going to be playing a little bit with some of the voices of Gaia New Earth leadership archetypes. And so we'll be doing a little bit of exploration with that a little bit later in the podcast. But first of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about Anna. And she is an intuitive guide, a coach, an inspirational author and artist, a free-spirited entrepreneur, creator of the Magical Heart Healing Cards, which I have, and the Manifest Your Dream Life program, and the founder of Wonderland Publishing. She's based in the beautiful Vancouver Island of British Columbia, Canada, and she loves to go on frequent nature adventures, capture magical waterfalls and mossy forests in her photography, and travel to her favorite destinations across North America. With her work, she seeks to inspire and empower her fellow humans to embrace their magic, follow their boldest dreams, and create the abundant, joyful, freedom-filled life they were born to live. To learn more about Anna and her work, I will list her website, annafrolik.com, for you later. So welcome again, and let's talk about awakening your heart magic, or whatever it is that you feel inspired, divinely inspired to talk about today. What is that? What is awakening your heart magic? Let's just start there.
Okay, very honestly, that just came through when it was time for me to pick the topic, when I filled out the form to apply for podcast, and it just kind of came through like as an idea or inspiration, and I decided to just go with it. But it feels very timely and very inspired, and it's been a really important part of my journey for, a long time now. I'd say the last 10 years or so, and it's kind of it's definitely an important part of the Magical Heart Healing Cards, which you mentioned in the introduction. That's the first oracle deck that I ever created. And also, it's not just about healing. This deck is so much about manifesting and creating your best life and liberating your magic in so many ways. And so I've been contemplating a lot, throughout the years, but especially in more recent times too, what that really means and why it's so important to be centered in our heart space, or to really reclaim that space within ourselves if we want to create and manifest in a way that really brings us joy, and that's not just, externally creating something or manifesting something that we think we need or want, so that we can then experience all the joy and freedom and peace and everything, like anything that we may want to experience internally. And so for me, that journey has been so much about the work that I've done in my relationships too, even though I don't publicly talk about that very much, but it's been, I feel, one of the most important parts of this journey. So that's kind of where I'm getting started with this today.
I love that. Yeah, that's definitely a awakening of the magical, your heart magical heart too. The magical heart. So I'm just going to listen here for a moment and see what spirit is wanting me to ask. So if you go into your heart space when you're manifesting, I think that's what I heard you say, the outcome is much different than if you begin from the mind. Is that true?
Yes, it's both the outcome and also the journey, and I think that's what matters the most. I mean, one thing that's been so important for me on my journey is realizing that it's not even so much about the destination or the goal that we want to achieve, but more and more it's been about coming so powerfully into the present moment and creating right here and now. And so when we're in the present moment, we're really in our heart space, because that's where everything is connected. We're fully grounded in this moment, anchored into the earth, and also connected to our higher selves. I always like to say that's where, like in our heart space, that's where both of these worlds come together. It's kind of our center, the center of our being. And that's where we can access like the gateway to our soul, but also where we're fully grounded here in the earth realm, and where we work our creative magic.
Yeah, that is really so important, and maybe you can share a little bit about this. Is there's a lot of creative energy that can get going, and you could pull down. You might be inspired. A lot of people get inspired, and then the challenge is to bring that all the way down and into your heart, right? Bring those whispers that you get from your guides, or just the collective energies, and to bring them down into your heart and see if they're really true for you. And then link that to the earth, like that's like a really, for me, that's been a difficult journey, but one that has been very rewarding once I allow that to happen. What has been your experience with working with people and with yourself about that journey, that aspect of bringing it and recognizing if it's truly yours to manifest?
Yeah, I think you said it really beautifully. And this actually brings me back to the very beginning of my journey too, when I started doing intuitive work. And maybe a year or two into this journey, I started channeling more and like writing. And there was a time when I was very ungrounded on my journey, and I kind of started opening to all sorts of energies, and I wasn't, really discerning where that came from, or even if it came from a higher place, it wasn't grounded, or maybe it wasn't time for that to fully ground. And so it was a very unhealthy way of working with those energies in a lot of ways. And I was also dealing with a lot of emotional stuff at that time. So it was kind of a disembodied way of creating or even escaping into the other realms to avoid, what I was feeling. And then I started this journey of reconnecting with my body and reconnecting with my truth in this moment, and really feeling, and I mean, my guides also helped me with this process and encouraged me to, when I'm channeling, that's just an example, but it's also like when we're receiving ideas, it's the same thing, like to really come back into my body and feel in my heart, is this true for me? And is this like, does this feel fully grounded? Does this, it's pretty much what you said. And I think the word feeling is so important here, because that's where we are really guided by our intuition, when we can really feel in our bodies and not just as an idea. And I talk about this more in the course that you mentioned in the introduction to the Manifest Your Dream Life program, like how we can discern where, if an idea is really fully ready to ground. Sometimes that something might feel really exciting, and it might also feel really overwhelming, and maybe that does mean that it's an aligned idea, but it's just not ready to ground. So there are many layers and aspects to this, but that's
I can totally relate to that experience of ungrounded creativity. And I can't say that I completely ground things still. I mean, there are sometimes I just get so excited about something and I just want to make something, and then the results are fleeting. So I really value, that what you're sharing with people in your program. I think you can become much more satisfied with your creations when you take the time to do this inner alchemy, right? I think, but it's all practice. We all learn. At least I learn through experimentation.
Me
And
too.
Sometimes, that's just got to just throw the spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks. And I'm just trying to bring lightness to that creative passion, right? That passion. Yeah.
I'm just curious, we were talking about human design earlier. Are you a 1-3 as well?
No, I have a lot of 3s though in my profile, line 3s. No, I'm a 2-5. But the interesting thing is, and I'll just share this because it feels in alignment with what we're talking about. I've gone through, I'm actually in my Chiron return, right? When you hit 50 and you go in and you actually have a Chiron profile, human design profile. I learned about it from another woman that that I work with, a colleague, and I'm a 1-3. So you get these 2 identities now. So that 1-3 part of me is starting to come like alive, and I don't know her yet, but so maybe you're a 1-3, so maybe I can use you as a role model. Because the 2-5 is usually we just sort of do whatever's natural and just show up and share. So having said that, talk a little bit about experimentation and the permission to experiment, and how that has been important for you in your business and in your creations.
This has been a big one, and there's so much I could say about this. I think the first thing I'd like to say is that we can all learn from this, regardless of whether we have a 3rd line in our profile or not. But I think our societal conditioning really, makes us actually fear experimentation and this whole trial and error process. Like most of us, I think, as soon as we enter school and then in the work world too, all the conditioning we get is all about, you shouldn't fail, or failure is something negative, and you shouldn't make mistakes. And so that's something I've really learned to embrace on my journey more recently. It's okay to make mistakes. I don't need to be so afraid to fail. I can just, if I have an idea and it just keeps bugging me and I'm not sure how it's going to go, sometimes it's better to just give it a try and see what happens. And I feel like now, like right now I'm in a process of transformation in my business. There's like so much changing, and I'm really fully giving myself permission to just give things a try. And I see that I learn and grow so much more quickly. And I can also, accept very easily when something doesn't feel right. I don't get stuck there. And
Yeah.
it can be a lot of fun, So I
Yeah.
see it as this experiment, and I don't need to make anything wrong if it fails, or I don't need to make myself wrong for it. And so I can be more playful about it. Um,
Mm.
but also, I mean, if we do want to continue with like the human design language, I'm a generator, and so I think one thing I've also learned is there's a time to experiment, and there's also time to step back and integrate and just allow, start to allow more opportunities just, to just come to me naturally.
Mm.
Because sometimes, or like constantly in experimentation mode, then we can go into initiating a little bit too much. And that's kind of what I'm just seeing right now, like trying to balance that out a little bit, and
Yeah.
not be too action focused. That makes sense.
Right. There's so much value in the receptive, right? In the being and allowing things to come to you. And I like, you know, what you were saying about it's not sure these were exact words, but it was the energy that came through is you have to practice. It's like the mastery. You have to do what you're called to do, and then sit back and see what's attracted to that energy that you've been creating in your field. Um, I feel like there's so much magic when you put your passion into, when you follow your passion. And how does passion come into your work? I mean, what are some of the things right now? You said your business is changing a lot. Was that driven by a deeper passion for something else in your life, or what brought you to this shift?
There are definitely a few layers to this. Part of it is just the way my life has evolved. I've just reached a really important milestone recently. I think I mentioned it in my previous uh, conversation with you. I finally got my Canadian citizenship, which I've been working towards for so long, or which I was working towards for so long. It was such a long and complicated process for me, and so that's just freeing up a lot of new possibilities for me, and opportunities for expansion that just weren't open to me, especially in terms of travel and everything that comes with that.
Mhm.
So in a lot of ways, it's been a journey of breaking free from restrictions, also, healing a lot of childhood trauma and connection with that, which is probably why this took so long. Um, and I think the passion piece is always important to me in my business because I do so much creative work. And when I'm not in alignment with my passion, then I'm just creatively blocked. And so that's not usually a problem for me. But recently, I've definitely also had the desire to liberate my own self-expression more, because in recent years I've been very focused on like mostly supporting my clients with their creative projects and like oracle card decks, and yes, including yours. And so my own projects got put on the back burner,
Yeah.
and it's just very different for me. Like often when I'm just really focused on client projects, it's hard for me to not just find the energy, but even just the mental focus and space, because I feel like it's like almost like two totally different worlds for me. So I'm
Yeah.
learning to balance that out more. But yeah, I've been following, I mean, that desire, but it's also been more like a sense of soul guidance. Like I've been waiting for the right time, especially with the Manifest Your Dream Life program that I mentioned. It's
Mhm.
in a way it's been ready for so long, but I was waiting for the go, like the internal go, and
Mm. And you
now's the
got that.
time.
And now's
Now,
the time.
finally.
Can you share a little bit about that? A little bit more about that?
Like the process of bringing it to life, or
Um, well, yeah, that would be, I think that would be
mm.
really um intriguing too. And also um just a little bit about the magic that's in that program itself.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I guess first, if we want to go back to this whole human design thing, um, that's been a really important part of my journey of liberation, I think, in the last 4 years or so, like really allowing myself to step into that process of allowing more and trusting my process, trusting my journey, receiving opportunities, and also really trusting the timing of things and not initiating when it's not time. So that has taken a lot of patience. And I think in the past, it would have been really difficult for me to do that. But I really just surrendered and just gave myself permission to not put it out there before it's time. And then I got the clear nudge to finally do it. Um, Now the program itself is really the culmination of, let's say, my whole journey for the past 14 years or so, of, setting
Mm,
myself free to live my best life. And there have been so many phases in this journey. But it all started about, about 14 years ago in 2009 when I left my corporate job and I started my own business. And so in the beginning, I just started following, I guess, my desires, my heart's desires very intuitively. And I just very intuitively set myself free to create the life that I had envisioned, but that was also being birthed through me, if that makes
mhm,
sense.
mhm,
And more it became that. So it wasn't so much anymore about just, the goal or the vision. It was very much about what unfolded very naturally in this moment and what unfolded from there and there and
mhm,
so on. Um, but as I kept doing this and then looking back, I started seeing certain patterns and, the very specific things that I did to make that possible. And so I kind of like did the reverse thing in a way. I did it first and then, looked at the big picture of how I did it and then fine-tuned it for a period, like over a period of so many years. And I think I just got to close my window real quick. It's starting
sure.
to rain, so I
Go
don't,
ahead.
just because it's starting to get a bit noisy. Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
But
I
I
couldn't
just
hear
thought
the
it,
rain, but it was distracting you.
yeah, I wasn't sure. Maybe I thought maybe it would, like the mic would pick it up and it would distract our listeners. Um, so I'd say it's been years and years of really fine-tuning this process, experimenting with it myself, and also simplifying it to the point where I can share it in a way that it's super straightforward and super simple, easy to implement. And so if I look at it now, I think it's a great program for anyone who has been following, the spiritual teachings about manifestation and Abraham Hicks and all those teachers, and you probably have a pretty good understanding spiritually and intellectually, about what it all means, and you've probably been, working with it and seeing some results too, but you might also feel like, it's just not fully working for me, or I don't know how to actually put it into action so it works. And so it's a 6-step process, and it's set up in such a way that if you even just consistently use one of these practices, it's going to change your life. But the most powerful way to do it is to go through the process at least once, like the full process, and kind of look at things from those different angles. And but it's easy, straightforward, and also playful. So, you're going to want to do the work. It's not going to feel like just a lot of hard work that you need to do. So
I like that.
And you can implement it again and again, and it kind of starts becoming second nature, and you don't really have to think about it anymore. You start like more intuitively knowing like when to use which practice, or even just one that particularly speaks to you.
Great. And I know that I believe I have the workbook that came out first of it, right? And so now this program actually is a guided journey, using that as the tool, and then do you work with people live, or how does that work? Yeah.
Yeah, so it is basically the same process as you see in the book, but it's just more in depth. So you'll get more of the background information, and like,
great.
So it's a guided process, but it's very aligned with the contents of the book. And you also get some additional content, like more like bonuses. And so you can go through the course basically as a self-study option, or you can also work with me one-on-one. That's an additional option, like for those who want more personalized support.
Well, I know you are a master manifester, because I've seen how much you have created that is just so high quality and meaningful and magical and beautiful. So I highly recommend people check this course out, and I'll make sure that I have your information for people to find you. And we're going to circle back to you to those links in a minute, but I want to ask you if there's anything else that you want to share before we shift gears a little bit and do a little bit of play with the archetypes of voices of Gaia.
Okay, play sounds like fun. Let's just start.
Okay. All right. So this is a little bit new, for listeners. It's that I've started to do this with my guests. So when we were getting ready to create this episode, I asked you what of the 8 archetypes you resonated with. And I believe you said the light bringer. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me just tell you a little bit about the light bringer. It's the 4th archetype of the 8. And these archetypes all come together, but they work kind of synergistically and sequentially. So the light bringer is the 4th in the sequence. And let me just share this little bit of a transmission about the light bringer. As a light bringer, you are here to share the frequency of the light of Source through your voice of Gaia as a new Earth leader. The mission of the light bringer is to channel down the light of Source, to activate the creation codes of Gaian consciousness that will manifest the new Earth timeline on our planet. I'm not going to go any more into the description of that, but is there something in there that you felt called to, or was it the image, or was it the word?
I think it was just the energy, but also maybe how I've been described and how I've described myself in the past. And there's so much to it. I mean, in the past, I like to call myself a light worker, and I still resonate with that term, even though a lot of people don't like using it anymore. But I feel like, I mean, there's so many layers here too. Actually, if we want to go back to human design, I'm also a light eater, if you know about the like determination.
Okay.
So it's also like I need the light to digest energy and information
Yeah.
properly.
Mhm.
And so that's part of it. But I also, yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I feel like if we want to go back to what I shared about the beginning of my channeling journey, and I mean, very much I was, connecting with my higher self and then my guides and channeling through that energy and sharing that consciousness with the world. And as I've progressed on this journey, I feel it's become a lot more about embodying that, not necessarily just, connecting with a higher source and bringing that, like communicating that through my teachings or to the world, but it's so much more. Yeah, it's been a journey of like learning to embody that and really like deeply put that into practice and learn what that means in my life, and then through that share the light with the world, so it's much more integrated.
Yeah.
And I also believe that we're all light beings and
Yeah.
here to have a human experience, so I think this applies to all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I could really see the resonance with the bringing down the source codes, of light, and bringing them to awaken or activate the Gaia, and the creation codes that live on earth in our bodies, right? And look at all the things that you create. It's like a manifestor's dream. Bring down the light, activate these creation codes in our 3D, and look at these beautiful creations. Look at these things that you make, and they're high frequency, right? They're of a high vibration, and so they expand people's consciousness and into living heart-centered lives, which I hear from you totally. So I feel that resonance. So they're basically they're the fourth, because the first one is the peacekeeper who holds the field, and the second one is the gatekeeper who helps the human vessel become stabilized, so that you can receive, so that you can be a conduit for guiding people to the new earth. And then the third one is the miracle worker. And this is the one that actually like goes out and does a lot of work. I mean, you're the worker. They go and like, they have to be places to align grids and do things like, do things like this. And then the light bringer is ready to come and it's like, bring it down, like to these places. And so I'm not going to go into the other four. I'll save that for another time. But I just, these are like, this is like the mythic journey, the voices of Gaia and the new earth leaders. But as a light bringer, you're bringing down the light, and you are inspiring people to live at a higher frequency, from that heart space. So that's kind of how I feel when the resonance with you in that archetype. And then you may or may not feel that, but I'd be curious to see how you could play with that, a little bit for yourself after this episode, and let us know. Let us know how that feels to you.
It definitely resonates, everything that you said. And another thing that came through while you were speaking, I feel when you were saying, like connecting to source energy, I feel that's very much what it is. I think I have a gift in some way of connecting very easily to those like source level frequencies and translating them in a very easy to understand way, if that makes sense.
You do.
You know, like how you can access that in a very simple way and directly manifest that in your physical experience.
Mm-hmm. In very meaningful ways. Yeah. Yeah. I would say you do that. So thank you for playing in the field with me on that. And I want to bring it back to how people can find you and reach out to you. What is the best way?
Okay, so I have my two websites, annafrolik.com, where you find my own products and my coaching work and courses and all of that. And then I also have the other website, wonderlandpublishing.net, which is all about my publishing services, especially for people who want to create and publish their own oracle decks.
Yeah.
We talked about that a lot in our previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Instagram, you can find me under Anna Frolik 1111. And then I also have a YouTube channel, same handle, I believe. And I have so many ways to connect with me, but those are the easiest. And then Facebook is also a good one.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being a guest again on the podcast. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what you're manifesting in the year to come. I have to call you back again to share with us where you're at, the chronicles of Anna Frolik, the manifesting master. So thank you. It's really beautiful to spend time with you again. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and stay divinely inspired. We'll catch you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. Again, I am your host, Patricia Wald-Hopkins, and I am so glad that you joined us here today. I hope you left with some soul food to inspire your daily life. And if you would like to learn more about my work, please check out my website, patriciawaldhopkins.com, and you can find out more about my divinely inspired practice and tools. So, thank you again. Have a beautiful day. Hi. I'm dropping in here with an announcement about a program, a new mentorship that I am offering. It's called Voices of Gaia, and it's about bringing your voice, your leadership, your life in alignment with Gaia's guidance. So if you feel called to learn more about this program, it's a beautiful, rich program where we dive into your essence, and if you so desire, we develop your business around it and really blossom into your whole lifestyle, this wisdom from Gaia that wants to be spoken through you. So if you feel called, reach out to me at patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. That's patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. There's no hyphen between Wald and Hopkins. And I would just love to hear from you and see if this is a good fit. So thank you for tuning in. Have a beautiful day.